This week's episode of Mind Gap Podcast is brought to you by the new video game Blind, a detective story. Blind, a detective story is a never-before-seen investigative role-playing game set in 1950s New York. Play as Bart Hammer, a private detective who has been hired to track down the murderer of a Hollywood movie producer. Also, Bart is blind. That's right, he can't see shit, which means you can't see shit. Use your very own ears to listen to witnesses to figure out if they're telling the truth. Use the Sensory Box hardware add-on to feel your way through the crime scenes. If it's sticky, it's probably blood. Probably. Smell your surroundings using the Auto Spray gaming sensor. There are over 100 smells programmed in, from taxicab leather that smells like dry-aged farts to a corpse that's been rotting in the sun for 3 days. This is the game that will blow your mind. Head on over to Bart Hammer is Blind today to pre-order your copy of Blind, a detective story. Enter the code MINDGAP at checkout to get the Real Danger hardware mod. This bonus tech makes it so if Bart gets hurt, you feel it too. Blind, a detective story. The video game experience that will define a generation is one you can't see. Good day to you, fellow human. On this week's podcast, Justin and I are joined by the magnificently kind and thoughtful Mark Shaffer of the Text and Rock podcast. Mark is incredibly well-versed on history, religion, and the Bible. If your butthole just puckered up at the sound of that, tell it to relax. Mark takes his vast knowledge and makes life awesome for everyone else by helping them read the Bible in its own context for what its own authors are saying, instead of focusing on all of the silly arguments between scientists and theologians from today. We then take a fan suggestion to theorycraft a situation where we would choose a movie, and within that movie keep one actor as a normal human, and then change everyone else to Muppets. We let our imaginations run wild, and many laughs were had. So let go of your baggage, think about how good humans can be, and consider which Muppet would make for a better movie viewing experience as we forge straight on into episode 243 of Mind Gap Podcast.
Mind Gap Podcast. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Mind Gap Podcast. To the Twitch folks, welcome. To the people listening, welcome. Great episode for us tonight because we have a very special guest. It is the one and only Mark Shaffer of the Text and Rock podcast. Mark, welcome.
Hey, thanks. Glad to be here.
Nice. And, as typical from the past few weeks, we are doing our social distancing via Skype, which is why the audio sounds fantastic. But you're coming all the way from Iowa City. How's life over there in Iowa City?
Well, I'm in quarantine with a 7-year-old.
So, that sounds great.
So much fun.
It's like all of a sudden I was the homeschool teacher of a pinball that like house. But imagine the pinball bouncing around your house and asking you Jeopardy questions about anything.
Wow.
Yeah. Anyways.
Oh, man.
And my out, so I'm ready to go.
Yeah, if you're on Twitch right now, you can see that Mark, you said you described it very well before. How would you describe yourself, like, on the screen?
Like I'm a failed informant. Like they blurred out the background. But my face is right there as I'm, telling on the evil drug lord that I work under.
Oh, it's amazing. It's so good.
I have my son's like camp lantern is what I've got on here.
Just right before we started the call, Mark called me and he goes, just so you know, my power just went out, my entire neighborhood. So I have a light and we're just going to make this happen. I'm like, cool, man. Sounds great.
We'll see where this goes.
You look like you're telling ghost stories.
The thing is, we've done episodes in far weirder, technical issues with far weirder. So this is right on par for what we're doing.
Oh yeah, this is yeah. These last few weeks have been, I think, trial and error, just to put it lightly. As we've tried to figure out some stuff, a lot of audio problems haven't gone well with this, but We're trying some stuff out. We're learning, and that's the most important thing. So, and speaking of which, you have your own podcast, Text and Rock. And I've been meaning to have you on here for a while just to chat about it because I find it very interesting. So tell us a little bit about your podcast and what you do with that.
Yeah, first of all, I should just say that I'm a fan of the Mind Gap podcast.
Aww.
And I have to drive between Iowa City and Cincinnati to wrap up some of my schooling, which means I have a dissertation that will never be finished ever. I always listen to Mind Gap because it's like having my friend Doug in the car. And I don't know what you're doing there, Justin. But
the casual observer, I suppose.
But honestly, one of the like first inklings I had to start a podcast came from you doing one, Doug.
Oh.
I was like, well, if Doug can actually do that, then I'm glad.
If Dum Dum Doug can pull this off, I can do it too.
No, not at all. I grew up with Doug. He can have a podcast. You know, but yeah. So the Text and Rock show is designed to study the Bible as literature. It's sort of a humanist look at the Bible, and it kind of helps a lot of people like me that grew up with biblical literature and then kind of went to college and studied evolution and physics and knowable observances about the universe. It helps people like us recalibrate and kind of love the Bible again.
Nice.
Because the reaction that a lot of people have is, well, wait, if I can't read that as literal fact, then I'm just going to pitch it. And I'm just going to pitch what I grew up with. And I kind of went the other way. I did a doctoral program in Near Eastern literature, like the context of the Bible and then its interpretation in the Greco-Roman period. But the fun for me was like, how can I take all this weird stuff I'm learning and make it awesome for a 7-year-old? Like that was always to me like, if I can put it in a way that like Otto wants to talk about Marduk, I've succeeded, right?
So cool.
The goal of the show is kind of to help people read the Bible in its own context and for what its own authors are saying instead of with all the silly arguments that happen between scientists and theologians today. So it's been really fun, though.
That's a really good, it's interesting. And because, which we'll get, I'm anxious to ask my next question, but we'll get there in just a second. But what, so what inspired you to take all this? Because I love this sort of like academic approach to it and be like, you know what? We want to share this with the world on a podcast. Like, what was the genesis? Because you also have a co-host on the show as well.
Yeah. So first of all, my co-host is not a nerd like me. He's an artist, and he's actually the drummer for an internationally known blues musician named Kevin Burt. And Eric sometimes is on tour, so we'll have to batch episodes like in advance. He's a cool dude, but like if you listen to the show and it sounds like Eric's like, yeah, that's interesting, but he doesn't quite know what we're talking about. That's because he's learning too. Mm-hmm. But that was the goal. It's like, okay, let's have a co-host starting at square zero and ground zero, and let's kind of talk through the concepts and the ideas. And when I've taught in a university setting, my goal is actually to get my students to a place where they assume nothing and to read it as literature for the first time, rather than I came from the synagogue or I came from the church and this is what God is. Instead, like I want to plunge them into the Near Eastern world where there are monsters and divine beings and magic is possible. And, I kind of want to take them to La La Land. And they have blocks to that if they grew up in a certain way. So Eric kind of takes the journey for our guests. It's been like really fun to set it up that way.
Wow, that is fascinating
concept. I love that.
Yeah. It's been fun. We've had people either love it or write us really nasty emails.
What are some of the nastiest emails you've gotten so far?
Sure. Here's a good one. So if you grow up in church world, once in a while they will mention, but no one will ever explain because it's not explainable, the Trinity, that God is 3 in 1. There's God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. And that's actually the permanent problem that Christianity and Judaism has. If you move to monotheism, well, then how do you explain evil, right? How do you explain evil? And
for the folks who are just listening, Mark just took his camping flashlight and showed it in his face like he was a serial killer. It was very, very dramatic.
Yes. So what happened in late antiquity was that the Trinity, or the idea that God is actually three and one, developed in paganism before it developed in Christianity. It developed in Greek philosophy. So what happened was Plato comes along and says, yeah, I believe in God, like I believe in a giant being guiding the cosmos, or that's responsible for everything, like everything came from somewhere, but he can't be like those silly gods on Olympus that act worse than we do, right? There's just no way. Instead, God has to be removed from creation and can't touch it, right? So the next jump in Plato's thinking is, well, this perfect being, well, he can't touch the mess of creation because it would kind of soil him or ruin his essence, right? There's a removal between like the divine and the world. So he has what's called the logos, or the being responsible for going between the removed God and creation, as the second person of the Trinity, like the Son. I mean, John even starts his gospel, in the beginning was the Logos, or the Word, and the Word was God. That's the concept. It's straight Hellenistic philosophy. So here's the trick, though. In the pagan Trinity, the Holy Spirit figure is actually antithetic to the other two. He fights against them, and that's how they explain evil, right?
Interesting.
Yeah. But in Christianity, the Spirit is like, has come through, the idea has kind of been run through Judaism, and they're looking for a spirit that works with the divine, or with the divine agent. So like hey buddy, I'm gonna hug you real quick.
No worries.
This is Otto, Doug.
Hey, Otto! Nice to meet you, buddy.
All right. Well, can I keep doing my show with these guys? I'm a guest. I don't want to be rude.
What time are you going to be up?
Probably like an hour. I'll come kiss you.
Bye.
Bye, Mama. Sorry, guys.
No, totally fine. For those that are not on Twitch, you didn't get to see Otto, but he looks awesome. So
Yes.
Well, and that allowed me to realize I was probably on a professor ramble. So let me stop. The long and short of it is that the Trinity in Christianity, the only reason they write in terms of Trinity is paganism. And I got a million emails about that. People were just like irate.
So they're like basically saying that you're saying that everything they believe is based in paganism, which is probably just doesn't fly well with them.
Right. But the thing is, I mean, the writers of the New Testament never would have been describing the divine as Father, Son, and Holy Spirit if it wasn't for Plato and that construction. And it's true, and it's traceable. You can't miss it when you study late antiquity.
Yeah, I can only imagine that
honestly, we don't.
I can only imagine the emails that you would get, or like people would be like, "Hey, buddy," because these are also the kinds of people in my mind, based on my experience, who would scour the internet, and as soon as they find something that would be like, "Hey, that's against my religion," they would probably come at you pretty hard, would be my guess.
So here's what I do for my own honesty. Anytime I make a blog post or record an episode, I send it to my colleagues from school, and I have them peer edit it to make sure I'm not out to sea. I'm actually like middle of the road. But then I don't allow comments on anything I write or produce, because I would get trolled so hard. But you know what's happened though is, because my field is about religion, the 250-year gap between the critical academic study of the Bible as literature and the church and synagogue, like the religions that hold those texts as God's word, there's just this huge gap in the way they're reading it. And I'm just trying to be a bridge and to be honest. That's like my goal. And for as many mean emails as I've had a whole lot of people say thank you. Like
nice.
someone finally just told it like it was, you know? So it's been really fun to do.
I feel like it's a very unique approach to religion in general, but also to like deconstructing the Bible and figuring out, like, because I was raised Catholic, stopped practicing right around the end of high school when it became my choice. And
sure. How's therapy going?
It's good. I have a glass of therapy every night. But No, it's something kind of similar to Doug. It's something I've shied away from, and it's always been.
Yep.
I hear the word religion, and immediately I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I want to hear this. Yeah, you're my stomach tightens up. But listening to you say, like, approaching it from more of a analytical standpoint, it I don't know. I don't want to say demystifies it, but it makes it approachable.
I want people to see the literature of the Bible as art and as an attempt by many people, really across 1,000 years, trying to name the ideal of the divine. That is, and there are really two ways you can go with it, right? You can be a person of faith that believes there is an objective divine being that's better than us and bringing everything along, but we're still just humans trying to name that, right? And so different authors are going to have different names, and different time periods are going to have entirely different constructs for naming that being. And we're just trying to get better names. But all of the names should be artistic and helpful. The other way to go with that is we really are all alone. And who knows, right? I mean, who can answer that mystery definitively? That's why it's a debate. That's why it's an issue, right? But the other way to go with that is naming God as an ideal can bring humanity forward when it's done artistically. It can never help, though, when it's dogmatically and, causes fights and arguments. So I guess one of the tenets of the Texan Rock show is to get used to other people naming things differently and to be okay with that,
See, it's interesting because, on our podcast, we get into fights as to whether or not Thanos would beat Hela in a fight. And whether or not, if she's on Asgard, definitely. But if she's elsewhere, I don't know, because that's where she draws her power from. So I think we're talking about very similar things between our podcasts, like
it's just
really getting to the crux of humanity.
Right. It's what you name it.
Yeah. Yep. My grad school friends and I would do that all the time, though. We would pair different divinities from across cultures and have them battle. Totally.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
You've been doing throwdown since for forever. Then
academic ones, no less, and very impressive.
Because I'm like 5 feet tall and 125 pounds soaking wet, so it's fun for me to talk about people that can kick ass.
It's so funny because Justin kind of touched on this just a second ago, but I'm not a religious guy. I didn't grow up religious or anything like that. But so when the topic of religion comes up, my butthole puckers up, kind of gets a little tight. I'm like, ooh, I don't know where this is going to go. However, when I've listened to your podcast, my butthole is fine. Why is that?
I mean, there's a whole nother thing we could open up from there too and really dive into.
Oh,
the power came back on.
Lights.
Oh, bam! Justin was waiting. He had that written on his hand. He's like, if the lights come on, here are the lines I'm going to say. You nailed it.
My dog is very concerned that I just screamed right now. She's staring at me.
What kind of dog do you have?
I have a blue heeler.
Oh, they're really smart. Hello.
What's up, Abby?
Abby.
I miss seeing that dog.
Cool. Yeah, so I think the goal I have for anyone, whether they're a staunch materialist and the concept of God is impossible for them, or whether they're actually entrenched in a religious tradition, is actually just that they would love the literature itself. I think it can help you name virtue and paths of life that are helpful, whether or not you believe in the divinity behind it. Actually, even for me, as I've been more comfortable with saying I can't resolve that, this, that, or the other, it's just I'm going to have to sit in the indeterminacy of it, or I might be a believer on Monday and a nihilist on Tuesday. Actually, you can be a believer in the right side of your brain and a nihilist in the left side of your brain at the same time. So I don't know what they do with you at the gates, but
I think that's a really good point, though, because a lot of this is you have to be this one way all the time, and if you're not, you failed. And I think that's a lot in our society, right? It's we really demonize failure in every aspect. And Justin said a lot of times on here, like, entrepreneurs generally, like, you got to have a couple failures under your belt, or a lot of people are like, well, you haven't done much because we didn't know that you failed. You have to learn from that sort of stuff. And I feel like it's the same way, where it's like, you're always this way, or you failed, you're not good at this, you're not good at that. So I think that's a really important distinction. I'm fascinated by the idea of being a believer and a nihilist at the same time.
You have to live. You have to live a little to get there. Stab a drifter or two. I think.
Hold on, I need to have this queued up. Hold on. All right, now we're ready.
I think though. I don't remember what I was going to say.
Stab a drifter. That's where we left off.
I think so. For me, the more I've realized that actually I'm a walking contradiction. Like, and the core values that I want to have, they're really ideals that I fall shortly of all the time. So for me, faith has actually become putting the ethical teachings of Jesus into practice as much as it is belief in anything ontological. And what I mean by that is everything about the way traditions are trying to name God may pan out or may not. But the reality is life goes a lot better when I can forgive my friends and even forgive my enemies, than it does if I'm an angry short guy with a chip on his shoulder. So, so for me, there's a very there's a very human growth that can happen without even resolving the issue of whether there's a God that the literature is actually naming or not, So that's what the show.
I feel like we need to get you on a larger platform just to say what you just said to the entire world. Just be like, guys, hey, it's going to be okay. All right, let's stop focusing on all the details and let's just take the core tenets here, which is, seriously, be cool to yourself, be cool to your neighbors, and we're going to get through this. I mean, that is always, when I look at things like religion, I'm like, the template or the core concepts of it, I'm like, are great.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Follow these rules because this is what it means to have a society, a functioning society. If you don't trust people, if you're stealing, if you're killing, and all that sort of stuff, it's not going to work. So focus through those filters, focus the world through those lenses, and things are going to be better overall. And it's now more than ever. I mean, again, kudos for you for shutting off comments and stuff like that. I mean, the internet is a cesspool of hate, and I've just recently, in the last few months, sort of like gotten into Twitter, kind of, and I've just realized, holy shit, that place is just constant battles happening all the time, and I get sucked into it, and I tell myself, I'm like, don't click on this thread, because I don't know where it's gonna go. And then I know where it's going to go, but I'm like, I don't know. Let's see. Maybe it's going to be good. It's not. It never is. And I think we lose sight of the fact that we're humans and we really just need to be nice to each other. And I think part of that with the pandemic has been nice to see that in a lot of ways, where I've seen some people in my neighborhood, in my community, like just being kind to each other. I found just even in what we're doing now, like online is so much better because, we're hosting video game Twitch streams on Saturday nights. We're like, guys, come hang out with us, play games, relax for 2 hours. Just watch us be stupid idiots on online, and let's have some camaraderie, because I know everyone's home, because that's always the thing for me. I'm like, people are busy. They're not hermits like me. They're not playing games on a Saturday night. But now I'm like, I know you're all home. And if you have time, which you probably do, just take 30 minutes to an hour. Come play a game with me. I'll make it fun, I promise. But having that sort of compassion and that camaraderie, that connection, I think is really cool. And it's really kind of invigorated me and given me a better look at things, because I don't know, seeing kind of like the repercussions of all this have kind of, it's scary, but at the same time, I'm like, there's a new path ahead of us, and it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see where we go from here.
It will. And, I think that when we talk about learning to be comfortable with the way other people name things, I remember growing up with you, and I was entrenched in a religious tradition, and you were not. And,
that's an understatement.
but this is the thing, though. If anyone would ask me about my friend Doug, I would say he's a gentle giant. Like, he has a good heart and a compassion for people. And at that point in my life, I would take the upper hand in any way I could get it because I was kind of small and mad about it. So like any insult that would pop into my head or any way I could be sarcastic or be the center of attention, I would take it a lot of times at other people's expense. All the while I was raised in a tradition that said, you're one of the righteous ones or the good ones or the ones that God smiles upon. And actually it was always a good like reminder to me that you seem to have those qualities in ways that I didn't. And I remember after like a decade, we were well out of college when I met you in Chicago at a diner and we were just talking about life. And I remember just some of the things you said. The overarching ideas were that people need to be good to each other. People need to be kind to each other. People need to give each other a break. And I walked away from the lunch and I thought, like, we've kind of arrived at the exact same place.
Wow. That was very kind. Everything you just said to me. Thank you. See, Justin, I can be positive.
I'll believe it when I see it.
But I would say we name things completely differently. Like my mother tongue of naming love and compassion is the God of the Bible because I grew up with it and then studied it for, 15 years after college. So, I mean, I'm entrenched in it. But at the same time, if I was to ask you, like, what's the ultimate point then in your atheism, you would say something to the degree of, well, we're in it for each other, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, we're really in the same place if the best arrival of any religious tradition is that we ought to treat one another with loving kindness.
Isn't it hilarious that really the divide here is, and I've kind of come to, I don't know if this is an epiphany or whatever, but I'd say 90% of the time we all want the same thing. We just argue on the 10% of the way to exactly get there. Like, in this situation with religion, it's labels, right? It's, how do you define the Trinity? And really, who is God? And really, it's like, none of that stuff matters. What matters is that, they're all trying to say the exact same thing, which is, you go through all these stories of, the Greek mythologies and all that sort of stuff. Like, they were all tales of like, to be a good person, because if you're not, bad things happen. Having faith and all that sort of stuff in each other and humanity, in believing in yourself, like all of those things, there's, if you draw a Venn diagram, there's a lot that crosses over. It's just a matter of what the specifics are, and it's a real shame that we get hung up on those specifics.
Yeah, so Doug, we just did our Venn diagram today, which I actually taught Venn diagrams as a homeschool teacher today to my son.
Nice.
He understood them better than I ever did. But we've seen our overlap. If we go to antiquity, if we go to 1st, 2nd, 3rd century, so after the time of Jesus, paganism and Christianity, their Venn diagram of ethics, it's almost identical in the middle. So they're naming. So first of all, in paganism, they moved past polytheism to where Zeus was like their high god, and all of the other gods were go-between, like Jesus, like God the Son, right? So like Zeus was God.
Man, and what a god he was, am I right? That dude was just couldn't help becoming a swan and having sex with ladies, am I right? Jeez Louise.
But that
I was like, oh shit, Mark, is it raining over there? In case you guys don't know, Justin has a new soundboard, and we're testing it out, and it's working out great so far.
I think it's awesome. But both systems arrive at the place that you ought to have a reverence for the divine, whether you name it as Zeus or Yahweh or God or whatever. And you ought to, as a result, love other people. It's called the two-virtue canon, and it's in paganism and Christianity. It's the same overlap, right? So, I mean, then and now, we ultimately want peace and prosperity for ourselves, and then a good virtue is that we want that for our neighbors too, even the ones that aren't like us. Yeah,
no, I totally agree. By the way, someone on Twitch, Jerbus, goes, is Zeus joining in? You're darn right, sir. He's absolutely joining in tonight. So I love everything about this. I listened to your most a portion of your most recent episode talking about master, like the student becoming the master, all that sort of stuff. Absolutely fascinating, and I love the conversations you guys have. And I think
Thanks, man.
There's a lot of really cool stuff in there for you guys to check out. We'll plug this again at the end, but tell people where they can find Texan Rock.
Yeah, they can go to texanrock.com. and they can listen to the podcast there. They can read the blog posts. And then I just started a member side of my website that basically gives people undergraduate level education in biblical studies for $10 a month.
Wow.
The idea is who of us like trying to pay off our college loans can like afford to go pay a university a bunch of money to learn about religion, but here it is on the cheap. So
that is really cool, dude. Like that is a really cool thing.
Just to clarify, TEXT ANDROCK, text and rock.
Here's where the name came from. We basically have two ways for uncovering antiquity. We have texts, so like things that were written down, and we have rock, what we dig up from archaeology, and the show tries to explore both.
Yeah, I love that.
That's so cool, man. That's awesome.
That, yeah.
Guys, go check out the podcast. It's great. It's a really cool way to sort of explore the stuff without feeling like, you'll have loose buttholes is what I'm trying to say, guys, while you're listening to this.
You won't feel guilty. You might actually like it.
Yeah, right? It'll be great. So
I'll make it worse than you will.
So we're going to transition here very smoothly. Seamless transition to, we had a fan send us an idea for the podcast, and Justin has their audio clip. Justin, would you mind playing what they have in store for us? They have a question for us to answer.
Hey guys, I heard this on the internet the other day, and I thought it would be a really good topic, 1-minute session. You might even be able to do a whole podcast on it, but here's the idea. You take a movie and you keep one actor, and the rest are replaced with Muppets. You can discuss which Muppets it might be, why you might pick that Muppet, or just conceptually just name the actor and then just say the rest of the cast is Muppets and let people just think what they want to, because sometimes it might just be funnier. But give you an example. When I heard this on the radio, my thought was Deliverance. Keep Ned Beatty, the rest of the cast is Muppets, and we could make the hillbillies the two old guys in the balcony. So anyway, have at it. I think it'd be fun.
That coming from Mind Gap's All-Star. I couldn't get the words out. Heg Nahigian, Two Good Hips on Twitch. I sent that in to us, and I very much a fan of this suggestion.
Yeah, ever since Justin sent it to me, I've been obsessing about it, and I've been like just constantly trying to think of like, because there's some. Justin and I were kind of chatting about this earlier today. You could do quote unquote obvious ones. You could do like Star Wars, but Star Wars, there's already CG in there. There's droids. There's fantastical elements.
There are actual Muppets in there. Hence.
It's true.
Jervis on Twitch says, any Nicolas Cage movie, keep Nick. The rest are Muppets, especially Gone in 60 Seconds.
Yes. Yes,
So then every other actor would be a mouth breather.
So I've been obsessed with this, and I've been trying to find interesting combinations or just absurd things, or trying to take a genre of something that's supposed to be and having it completely flipped because now flipped because
we'll go there.
I was hoping no one heard that. Flipped so that, and now the movie has a completely different tone to it. And everything like that. Justin or Mark, do you have anything off the top of your head? Do you have any suggestions?
The one that came to me almost instantly was Fight Club.
Yes,
that did cross my mind. Okay, who stays the human?
Not surprised it crossed your mind.
Who is the human in that, and who else remains Muppets? So
I keep Edward Norton.
It makes sense, right? That makes total sense.
But then his alter ego is Kermit, because I mean, like, hi ho, we don't talk about Fight Club, and And then Marla Singer has to be Miss Piggy.
Oh God.
But then everyone else that lives in the house, are all of like the other Muppets. And imagine the scene where they say again and again, like, in death, his name is Robert Paulson.
His name was Robert Paulson.
Different voices. There's like Rizzo the Rat and that monster-looking thing, and like Legal Eagle.
That monster-looking thing's got to be Bob, right?
Oh my God! See, now the one part I didn't consider was what Muppets were playing what. I just figured I was trying to decide who the humans were, so now I really have to think about. Dude, that is perfect. I love the idea of Kermit being Tyler Durden. That is
specifically because his limbs are so small.
Yeah. Think of the opening scene.
Right?
Like Edward Norton has a gun in his mouth and Kermit's holding it. And there's like a flaming city behind him.
Oh, that's amazing. Oh my God. Yeah, there's that scene where they're pouring
Do I give you the butt or do I give you the crotch?
He's pouring the lie on Edward Norton's hand and holding it there, and he's like, no, trying to have this existential moment of like, no, slapping him across the face. If this happens, what do you think it means? That God hates you. That you're nothing.
No, you have to say it right. Ha ha! We're God's unwanted children, so be it.
Wow, that is a fantastic choice. Well casted.
Yeah.
Woo! All right, Justin, you follow up with that one.
No. I'll do one that another all-star, Rob Ballmeyer, came up with. One of his was Goodfellas, and he keeps the human as Joe Pesci.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. I guess you could also keep Ray Liotta as the human and have everyone else, since he really is more of the. It all depends on which way you want to see it lean, but well, specifically, I think if I remember correctly, he said that it was Joe Pesci in the scene of, "What, am I funny to you? Do I make you laugh? What, am I like a clown? I'm funny how?" And it's all the Muppets talking to him, going, "No, it's not what we meant."
Dude, it totally takes those scenes and like just makes it even more insane, and that's what I love about this prompt. Like,
right.
The part where he's
if Ozzy go waka waka.
It's like, what? I'm trying to bang this Jew lady. Come on, help me out. I don't want to help. She's can you believe it? She's racist against Italians. Can you believe this? And it's like, I don't know who'd play Ray Liotta's character, but he's just like, he's doing all this sort of stuff, saying these crazy things, like. but then there's Muppets around him, you know. Oh,
all the Muppets are doing cocaine at the end, driving in the car.
I could picture it well enough that I was starting to cry.
Yeah, I mean, those iconic moments in there.
Yeah.
The montage of all the people that were killed by De Niro's character, like coming out in different places. I love the idea of there just being one human in all this, and it's. I think it's almost better when it's not a main character, because it makes it that much insane. Because you're, especially in something like this, you're invested in the characters. Then all of a sudden, Joe Pesci shows up. You're like, wait, why is he a human?
Right.
One of the most violent people in this movie, and it's like, it's almost so much more terrifying yet laughable because he's beating up Muppets.
Right.
Oh, we got a couple of suggestions from Twitch. Face Off needs Cage and Travolta. I don't know, which one would you pick? Would you pick Cage or Travolta? Like, which one's the human? Which one's not?
I think they're saying they need both of those. They have to stay themselves and everyone else. But I would love to see, like, I don't know, like Gonzo do the priest at the beginning, where he does the head roll and like.
Oh, where he basically he pats the ass of a child, more or less, like in the choir. Ugh,
that's Gonzo.
That's. I think he would beg to differ.
It's not a large jump from chicken to child. Is it?
Thank you. See, he gets it from chick to chick.
That has got to be a soundbite right there. It's not a huge leap from chicken to child.
That's going on a soundboard.
That's going on a soundboard. That's going on a shirt. Wear with caution. That'll get you arrested right away.
Yeah. Been nice, fellas.
You're like, wait, you're going from animals to children? This is not good.
Oh my God. Doug, what do you got?
All right, so I have my first one here is Gone Girl, the Ben Affleck movie, but the human in it is Neil Patrick Harris's character. He's a side character if you've seen it, and he's obsessed with the female lead. And I think it would be hilarious because not only do you have this very serious David Fincher movie about lying about whether or not someone's dead, but then Neil Patrick Harris, who is just a delight in general, enters from the side obsessed, like just romantically obsessed with, I don't know, I think Miss Piggy would be a good job for that role. You could do Kermit and Miss Piggy for Ben Affleck and the other woman. It's a perfect one. But he's just like super obsessed with her, and ultimately, the gross and dark things that happen in that movie, and he's just the human who ultimately gets killed.
How many female Muppets are there? There's the girl that plays in Dr. Teeth and the Electric Mayhem.
Yes.
I was thinking, yeah.
Piggy. Is that it?
Twitch, help us out there. Any other ladies in the Muppets world?
Wait, the Muppets do not survive the Me Too movement. Maybe.
Nope.
Right. So there is. There is not, guys, a lot at all.
Wow.
Fictional characters, female and Muppet, only brings up 2, 4, 6, 8, and most of them are from Sesame Street.
Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy.
That's interesting to me.
It is.
Camilla the chicken is one of them.
Of course it is.
Annie Sue Pig must be related to Miss Piggy, I guess. Then there's that the one who what's her name?
The
I can't find her name. Yeah, the one that plays in the band. Oh,
Yeah.
Janice.
Yeah.
Janice. The one that seems like she's addicted to heroin.
Oh,
I
100%.
love that band.
You will love the game we played last week or last Saturday, Mark. We were playing a trivia game, and one of them referenced Mr. Teeth or whatever his name, his band. It's like, what instrument does he play? And we all got it wrong.
Does he play keyboard?
He does. You would have won that round. Congratulations,
Ding,
Mark.
ding.
We all said saxophone. Incorrect.
That's because Can You Picture That starts with like a heavy saxophone intro.
Yeah.
And now you know how dorky I really am.
I was like, I figured you'd love this prompt because I knew you were a fan of the Muppets, so I think this is a good prompt for you. So I'm gonna kick it back over to you, Mark. You got another one?
We got another one from Twitch here, which is Casablanca, and it's Bogart and Miss Piggy.
Oh God.
I think that would be just mwah.
Oh, that'd be interesting. Yeah, Miss Piggy's gonna have to be in a lot of these.
I was gonna say, yeah, that's pretty much it. All right, Mark, what's another one from your list?
So I'm in Iowa. Could you do Field of Dreams? Because it's really
Oh yeah.
it's really like heavy that he's reuniting with his father and all these baseball players from the past, except they're like Muppets.
Oh,
So good.
that's
So
amazing.
Costner's the human then.
Costner stays, and
Okay.
then all of the tension is undercut because they're Muppets.
They come out and like the corn leaves are sticking to their felts and
He's like, he goes to play catch with his dad at the end. It's like, like with their little animated hands.
oh god, I love
All the beauty of it's gone. Is it's like, let's play baseball. Oh!
that one's really good. Good call out in the Iowa too.
Nice.
Thanks.
All right, Justin, what do you got?
Well, in keeping with that, I Casino. I feel like a lot of Scorsese because and this one I want to keep Joe Pesci as the human because that scene where he and De Niro where they're in the desert. I just want to hear Pesci say something to the effect of like, "Don't you ever go over my head again, you felt motherfucker, you." You've been warned.
Well, just the idea that he'd be that mad at a Muppet, it completely just like if you have that same intensity,
Right.
and it's just it totally changes the scene 100%. He's like, you went over
Right.
my head, you son of a bitch,
felt
like
motherfucker, you.
it It's completely
of
different.
Of course, we could have Sharon Stone is played by Janice then, because
there you go.
similar to those two.
I was gonna be like, and she's also Miss Piggy. Like, Janice would be a good fit for that.
That was a good adjustment.
Yeah, that's really good. Oh man, we got another one from Jerbus. Inception. Leo stays.
I thought of Inception.
So did I.
Yeah, but I was worried I would have to then try to walk through the plot of it and show everyone that I didn't really understand.
We've gotten some good reactions from Felt Motherfucker on Twitch. Two Good Hips says, "I'm dying, you Felt Motherfucker," and Jervis says, "Felt Motherfucker is just amazing. I want Pesci to say it now."
I would love nothing more than Pesci to say that. God damn it! I want him to say it so bad.
Oh my God, that's hilarious. Another one I had. This one goes out to Haig. American History X, one of his favorite movies, and Edward Norton is the human. The rest are Muppets. Because now you have this beautiful movie about hate and race that is completely undercut by the fact that they're Muppets.
They're like 80 different colors. And
I specifically am thinking of the scene where he curb stomps, the guy. And Justin had a good suggestion. Like, he doesn't, all you see that flies up is some felt and some fluff. Just some stuffing, just goes poof. But it's everything that's great about that movie is completely undercut by the fact that, here he is in prison during the prison scene, right? All those white supremacist guys get him in the shower, but they're Muppets. Maybe Mr. Teeth's band is the one that gets him in the shower.
Yeah.
I'm liking this prop, man. This is great. Bring out the best in all of us.
Yeah. All right, Mark, back to you.
Woo.
okay. I want to say Waterworld.
I've got to stop taking drinks of water as you guys are about to talk. Like, I'm gonna have a spit take for sure here.
And I again, I think I make the only character the bad guy because he's really the only good actor in the movie.
Oh my God, that actually almost makes the movie better. I think.
Yeah. Because he's like bent on as much power as he can grab in like this post-apocalyptic water world, right? And instead of Kevin Costner with his gills being human, it's actually the bad guy that's like bossing around all these Muppets, and it's like, why do you even like care what they do?
Well, it's so funny because most of the other people in his tribe, or you will, if his gang, are not as smart as him. So it looks like he's gathered them up, and he's just been like, "I am your leader because I'm human." And they're like, "Yeah, we're gonna follow this guy." And he's just already just over the top chewing the scene anyway. And then when you add Muppets to it, it just adds another layer of insanity. They're on this giant tanker trying to get oil and all that sort of stuff, and trying to find land. And then you add him in there. It just adds a whole new level of insanity. And I love everything about it.
It's such a bad movie, and yet it's ahead of its time.
Yeah, right? Dun, dun, dun. That's one of those movies where I'm like, if it's on, I'm like, well, I guess we're watching this. Like, it's totally a guilty pleasure.
Yeah, you need to know what to do, how to barter.
How to barter. I don't know if that's really the key takeaway from that movie, but I appreciate that,
It taught me about commerce.
Yeah, right? So good. Jervis says, what about a horror film like Friday the 13th with the killer chasing down the Muppets? Yeah. I have something similar, which I'll get to momentarily. But
I like that one, or it's a Muppet chasing everyone else down.
There you go.
Could be fun, too. I was thinking the Shawshank Redemption with the human being Tim Robbins' character. So, like, in the... when he gets, what do they call them? The sisters? When they corner him? Or the guard when he's doing his thing, or any of the other... I would absolutely love to see that.
You got that, you maggot dick motherfucker?
It's such a poignant story with such great drama, and then it's just completely undone.
And all the posters that he hangs up have to be of Muppets in his cell as well.
The three women in the universe.
Right. Exactly.
One's
Absolutely.
a chicken, one's the heroine, and one's Miss Piggy. Just
like you're not supposed to have that chicken in here.
Oh,
so, who plays Red? Who plays Red though?
Oh, see, that's a good one.
It's got to be he's the dog that plays the piano. Ralph. That's his name?
Rolf.
What was it?
Rolf. Yeah.
Rolf. ROLF.
Yeah, Rolf. He's perfect for it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Man. Let me look up Muppets.
I think he'd be perfect because what I'm thinking of is that scene right before he escapes. He's talking about Zoataneo, and there's Tim Robbins just like at his breaking point, and it cuts over to this dog. He's like, "Man, those are just shitty pipe dreams, you know. That's Mexico's way down there, and we're all the way in here."
I'm looking
You can
through
almost
these
see him at the
characters.
piano saying it.
He's playing the piano, trying to get through. Just
I hope
whatever.
that something better comes along.
Yeah, Ralph's got to be. Yeah.
Oh
And
my
then
god.
The warden has to be Sam Eagle.
Yeah,
That would go
100%.
with the unibrow.
100%.
And of course, the guy who works in the library. Oh God, what's his name? I can't remember his name now. Is the Swedish chef.
Scooby-Doo. How long?
What the hell was?
How
his
long?
name?
How long you been? I feel so bad. I know that movie like the back of my hand. I can't remember why. I can't remember that character's name. But he's just like, how long you been working in the library? He's just like Scooby-Doo, Scooby-Doo. Wow. Okay, that's interesting. Why? He's just like does it again. Doesn't compute the fact. Brooks. Yes, Brooks. Yeah. Oh my god.
But yeah, and he responds. He's like, yeah.
Yeah. See, Two Good Up says Fozzie should play Red, but I think Fozzie should play the other guy who's kind of the wise ass, who's a part of their crew, who's like not very bright. He loves Hank Williams. Yeah. You know what I'm talking about?
Blonde.
Yeah. He would be good for Fozzie, I feel like. Kind of like the lovable idiot. But also super aggressive. Where it's like, does anyone know his name? He's like, the fuck you care? He's dead. We're not. Waka waka.
They're all sitting around tarring the roof, and they've just got tar on themselves, not knowing what to do.
I just imagine that scene with Sam Eagle where he's like, "You're being obtuse." He's like, "What did you call me?" Obtuse. What? That's nothing changes.
Oh God.
Woo. So my next one would be Saving Private Ryan.
Yes.
And
yes.
The human would be Matt Damon's character, because you'd have the whole movie of Muppets going through this traumatic war experience, dealing all the stuff, and the person they're trying to save is a human. And there's a specific point in the movie where one of the characters is like, you know what, I hope this guy's worth it because I bet he's an asshole, you know? And then they show up at the end and it's like everyone's just getting horrible, just obliterated, but then there's Matt Damon, and for some reason they have to save him. And for some reason, to me, that is hilarious. I think Kermit should play Tom Hanks's character.
Yeah.
To be leading the troops.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that beach scene, that opening Normandy scene?
Really, it will take a lot of the drama out of that, I tell you that much. Just stuffing everywhere. It basically would pollute the ocean, is what it would do.
Yeah.
So you got Kermit playing Hanks, and who else did you have cast?
That's all I have so far.
Okay.
Who's like the main troop of guys? Say you have like 5 guys walking around, and they've got military.
Animals got to be in there. So he's Animal's the wild card, right?
Animal. We haven't talked much about Animal yet.
No.
Animal.
I've got Animal as someone for either Animal or Gonzo for a movie I got coming up, but who would Fozzie would have to be in there? He'd be kind of the jokester of the platoon.
Yeah.
Who would be the sharpshooter?
Oh, that's a great question. I know who the Oppum would be, the guy who gets put in who speaks German. You guys know that little bunny that's from like the Disney World?
Yeah.
Like that's totally him, just meek and mild and kind of a mess up, doesn't understand anything. He's like, "What's foobar? I don't see it in the textbook here. I don't see it. It says it's not listed in my dictionary." It's like, "Shut up, shut up, Opham."
Oh my God, yes. Oh, who was the other? Oh, that little Pepe the King Prawn.
Pepe.
I forgot about him. He'd be in the troop for sure.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
I put Beaker in there. Just
Maybe Beaker would be the medic. He'd play what's his face's role? Giovanni Ribisi. Like me. Oh, he's freaking out as people are just getting annihilated.
Oh, and at the end he just gets that. Oh, that would be so. The knife plunged into his heart. Oh man.
Oh boy, Jervis.
Much darker movie.
Yeah, right. As if it couldn't be any darker. Jervis says Forrest Gump. Bubba stays human.
Oh shit. So we're making Forrest.
What Muppet plays Forrest then?
Yeah, right. I mean, I initially go to Fozzie for some reason. He seems like a good fit.
Maybe Beaker again. I feel just looking at him, I'm like, that's kind of him.
Yeah.
Or Scooter.
Scooter. Oh, I forgot about Scooter. No, Scooter's not Forrest.
Should we?
He doesn't have that kind of range.
Also pull from. He doesn't have that kind of range. Should we also pull from Sesame Street? Because technically those are Muppets as well, right?
I guess, yeah. I mean, I haven't considered those characters yet either.
So Elmo then.
I mean, I think he has about the capacity. No. Mr. Noodle from Sesame Street. Mr. That Noodle. Guy could play Forrest. Jervis says Kermit should play Forrest Gump. He goes, just imagine the scene with the leg braces with his frog legs.
Oh my God.
I love that one.
Ooh, guys, you
right,
keep it coming on Twitch, man. This is great.
This is so much fun. What else you got?
The Dark Knight.
Oh boy, tell me more. Lay it on me.
Right,
tell me what you got.
I keep Christian Bale as Batman with his gruff, like, I'm sick of crime in this city. And then I make everyone else a Muppet.
So the big question is then, who plays the Joker?
Yeah. And I hadn't thought that through yet. You guys want to think of it together? Why I go plug in my phone since I'm running off of it?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I'm about to die. I'll be right back.
No worries. Oh my God, who is that again? Fozzie?
And Fozzie could, from a very literal standpoint, Fozzie could handle that. Yes. There's that Uncle Deadly. He's the guy who's kind of got like looks like dreadlocks coming off his chin, really sunken in, beady eyes.
Yeah, he could do it. So could Dr. Teeth.
Yeah.
Ooh, wow.
Yeah. Big Bird.
I mean, you have to give him a
Big Bird. I'm an agent of chaos. I'm like a dog chasing cars. I want to know what to do if I found it.
And then you just see him turn and like lumber away.
I imagine him just like that's perfect for when he's trying to set off the bomb at the hospital.
Oh, yeah.
He's just like walking out of there, just doop a doop a doop a doop, and then he's like,
had to go under a door. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my God.
It's been a while. Is the Dark Knight the Batman where they have the two ships with the bomb?
Yes.
Or is that the first one?
Yeah.
Yeah. So just imagine all these different Muppets in those ships, like debating over what to do. Like,
the prison Muppets and then the regular the
Oh,
pedestrian Muppets.
And they're all freaking out. They're like, the little hands and stuff like that. Who is Two-Face? Ooh.
I guess.
Kermit for Alfred? That's a pretty good suggestion. I like that one. Actually, it's probably not a good fit, but again, Sam Eagle for Alfred seems like a good one. Just to kind of like, did you get mauled by a tiger?
Or for Alfred, it needs to be. What's that?
Could you make a hybrid for Two-Face, like half animal and half like
Or how about this?
Yeah.
After the accident, it's one character for one way. Maybe it's Scooter, right? And then after the accident, he just turns into
It's half animal and half
into animal. And he's just like, ah! Rachel!
Alfred and oh god, who does Morgan Freeman play? What's his character's name?
Oh, Lucius Fox.
Alfred and Lucius need to be Statler and Waldorf.
Yes, I just thought of that as you were saying it. They're both the same. They're just constantly giving him shit. That's amazing.
And then at one point he's gonna turn to him and go, "Why are you two always together?"
He's like,
They just roll together everywhere, ride or die.
it's like, I don't remember you guys being around here so much. I don't remember you being such a pussy. I don't know. That's what I imagine what they'd say. All right, I think we got time for a couple more. All right, Justin, what do you got?
So I've let's see here. Well, the one that I saw Animal in was Jaws.
Yes.
And I wanted him, even though he can't really talk, I saw him as Robert Shaw's character.
He's perfect. He's perfect.
Where he's just got that hat on and that mop of hair underneath and just kind of sitting in the back like eye never went up.
I just imagine him like, when they have that town hall meeting, because he does his eyebrow stuff too. He's just like,
Scratches the board down. He goes, "You'll get it, shark, head, tail, whole thing."
Like, you get the head, the shark, the tail, the whole thing.
He's just huffing and puffing at the back.
Because I imagine that too, like when he's already losing his mind, he tells the drunken story of the USS Missouri or whatever.
Indiana, yeah.
Or Indiana or whatever it was. And of course, at the end, where he's like trying to stab the shark as he's going on, he's like, ah!
He's got a drumstick he's trying to stab it with. Obviously, it's got to be a drumstick. Yeah.
So who's the human in it? The shark?
Yeah. Everyone else is Muppets. The shark remains human. I think. Is it no?
Brody?
God, what? I can't think of his name. No, not Brody.
Guy who's dead.
God damn it! Hold on. Murr.
Oh my gosh, Justin.
Richard Dreyfuss.
There you go. Oh, Dreyfuss. Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting pick.
I keep Dreyfuss in there because I want to see Dreyfuss interact with Muppets.
That's all that this is about.
I just want to see him. Yeah, I want to see him lose his mind. The thing is, though, Robert Shaw was actually like a theater, like a stage actor, so it might be fun to put him.
Ooh.
He has to keep his cool around all these fucking Muppets.
I think I like keeping him because he has a pretty gruesome death in the midst of all these other Muppets who get eaten by a shark. Or even better, the shark is a Muppet. And that just takes the, that takes everything out of it. It's eating other Muppets, but at the very end it eats him and it's still gory and everything. It's like, whoa, was this shark for real?
What? I'm into that. I like that one. Yes.
All right, I think I got one more here.
All right.
Predator, and the predator stays the human, and the predator hunts Muppets.
Oh my God! Yes.
I'm trying to think who you'd have play Arnold.
That's a good one.
Because I don't know who you'd have.
Oh, I would put that as Sweetums then, right? That's the
Swedish chef.
With the,
yeah.
With the big flappy jaw.
The huge guy.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, right. Yeah.
And isn't there another monster about the Simpsons? Maybe not.
Oh. Sweetums Muppet. Yeah, that guy, for sure. That guy's terrifying, man.
I know, right? Because he could definitely go toe-to-toe with the Predator.
I feel like part of the crew should be the Swedish chef, which would be hilarious because he's like kind of Oh, Jervis says Arnie stays in the Predator is Beaker.
You never do
instead of the you hear me. Did you hear that? And somehow Beaker just brutally murders people, and at the end you hear him go me. Do the laugh, Justin. Do it. There it is. As and he just slow-mos as he like sets off the bomb and it nukes everything. He's just,
I put Rizzo in the group.
Yes.
Just next to Sweetums marching over hill and through the jungle, and
That would be amazing.
Who would play the former governor of Minnesota? What's his name? The wrestler?
Jesse the Body Ventura.
Yeah, who gets to say the line, I ain't got time to bleed.
Sam Eagle.
I don't have time to bleed. No. Let's get this done. You got
Miss Piggy has to be in the group too, because she would be just a badass in that environment.
Well, there is a female in there that they find, one of the rebels they find early on, who ultimately survives with Arnie. But I don't know. I kind of imagine her as the. There's a part where the Native American guy. At the end, he's like just sensing stuff, and he just stands on the log and like cuts his chest open. He's like, that could be Miss Piggy.
I could see Miss Piggy
Bacon
on herself and going after Predator. She's tough.
Right? Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I mean, think of when she loses it in all of the movies or shows and just like whips everyone.
Yeah, man. Well,
I like that one. We could literally do this all fucking night.
I literally was just gonna say that. I'm like, I feel like we could crowdsource more amazing opportunities here. So kudos.
We might have to bring this back at some point, because this is just too good.
We'll stew on it a little bit more. I find it's fun to find the award-winning material and be like, how can we make this more ridiculous? And I feel like
I think it's its own podcast. Really.
That's all it is. Welcome to episode 200 of Replacing Humans with Muppets in Movies. Today we've got...
Today we're doing Predator.
Today we're doing Parasite. Here we go.
Oh, God. That's amazing.
Whew. Oh, man.
Tremors was
Tremors!
Oh, Tremors was...
Tremors!
That would be amazing.
Because this giant
who's the human?
Fighting Muppets in half. Kevin Bacon's the human.
Okay, all right.
Duh, you dum-dum.
Was I too intense there, Justin?
My bad.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. Yeah, it's similar to like the Jaws, where you got like this thing just terrorizing the Muppets and just destroying them. Yeah, that's perfect. I love it.
I do have one more game for us, if you're into it.
I'm into it.
And it's going to be you pick two people, and you're not replacing them, you're just putting them together, and it's called the Throwdown. Throwdown.
Love that new intro for that. Sounds great.
Thank you to Bob Ballmeyer for the Third Eye intro.
Yes, that was delicious. Thank you.
So excited we have a theme song now.
Only 243 episodes in, we finally got one, so it's all good.
Who knew that this quarantine would force us to really up our podcast game?
Yeah, you're really going.
Force us to get super creative, right? It's like, you know what we could do? Let's hook up this stuff. Let's do this. Let's do a soundboard now. We got time.
So, so today's Throwdown, now I just want to put two Muppets together, but I've been inspired, but we're going to go back to what we had for our special guest. So tonight's Throwdown, it's going to be a 12 men enter, 1 man leaves Throwdown. We're doing the 12 disciples. Go. Verse Jesus. Go.
Sure.
Or Doug, do you want to go with that one? Or
No, I think that's great. I think that's a good one.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is good. You have the 12 apostles. They all go together. Essentially, Jesus comes out and says, only one of you can really be my true follower. He breaks a pool cue in half, throws it on the ground. He goes, we have tryouts. See you later. And he goes, make it quick. And he walks away. And they all look at each other and they're like, well, I want to be his number one. And then they kind of go. So based on what you know with your knowledge,
Yeah.
what do you think happens?
Well, Here's where it gets easy, though. Only a handful of them are really prominent in the literature. The rest are just kind of hanging out. They exist, but they're not,
Just kind of like chumps. Yeah.
I think the end battle has to be between Judas Iscariot and someone.
Okay.
Right? Like the guy that betrayed Jesus has to be in the final battle.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in the final battle, it's either Peter or John.
Okay. And what's your reasoning?
Yeah, so Peter is a hothead, and he's really he asks like all the dumb questions and like jumps into arguments too fast, or like there's that scene where they come to arrest Jesus and he like jumps at a guy and cuts off his ear. He doesn't like run him through. He's just like, eh. And but he's kind of like always in the scene, in the periphery, doing stuff. And then John is, purportedly Jesus' youngest disciple, and he's kind of a gunner. He's ambitious. There's this great story where they're walking into a city and they get rejected, and John's like, "Hey Jesus, do you want me to call down fire from heaven on them?" And Jesus is like, face palm. No.
He's essentially the Jesse Ventura. He's like, "Hey Jesus, I ain't got time to bleed."
But James and John, their nickname. This is great. You might need a sound effect for it. But they're the sons of thunder, and they are. You had it from earlier.
Did he get it on that one? I feel like he got it.
So I think basically Thomas, the doubting Thomas, gets the crap kicked out of him instantly. He's just done. He's like, I don't even know if I'm in. And just wham, right? And then the other guys get eliminated over time because they're not that important. They're really like, all these disciples get pulled in, but then like, find me a story about Andrew. He's just there, And yeah, he's like that kid in high school that no one remembers. Which would be me. And no, but seriously, so you have the Sons of Thunder, and they kind of team up, and you have Peter and you have Judas in like your final, like these are the guys left standing, I think.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I don't know where you want to go from there.
Well, I like how you whittled it down. So essentially, it's kind of down to a three-way. You got you said Peter and John, correct?
Yeah. So James and John are the zealots, the Sons of Thunder.
Huh?
And then Peter,
Sons of Thunder. And
Peter's a hothead, and always rushes into things, and he's kind of brash, and
I feel like that would work against him. I feel like he'd be the first one to be like, I'm going to prove to Jesus that I'm number one. And then Judas is like, sure, I'm sure he's just a crafty guy.
Yeah. I think Judas somehow stabs like Peter in the back or hits him with a chair that he doesn't expect. And then, so you have the Sons of Thunder and Judas left, and the Sons of Thunder gang up on Judas. Because he just can't win, because,
You don't think he'd sow discontent between the two of them? You don't think he'd play some mind games with them?
I think he'd try.
Do you think... Because it sounds like they're pretty easily like, hey, you want me to call down the fire? But he'd be like, you know what I heard? I heard he said that you don't really believe in Jesus. In fact, I heard you call him Jesus. He's like, I never called him Jesus. He's like, that's what I heard. And before you know it, they're fighting among each other. And, and then that's when Judas strikes,
I think that's like the last moment of the battle. He sows discord in between them, and he's going for the victory, but he can't have it because he ends up, the worst guy in history and hangs himself in the story. And,
not in this story.
Yeah, well.
So you're describing him as like, well, he's a villain, so he can't win. Not in the throwdown. Anything goes in the throwdown, sir.
Maybe I'm wrong then. Judas, the reason he betrays Jesus is that he wants to overthrow Rome. He's a zealot, and he sees that Jesus is going to go pacifism, and that's why he sells him out. So maybe he does. I don't know. But I think for my story, I want John to win, and I want him to win by actually doing what Jesus told him not to do. Like, I want him to like start by putting his hands in and shaking them, and then a fireball like kind of forms, and then he reaches above his head, and a lightning bolt meets his fireball, and he throws it all to the ground.
He's gonna keep doing it.
Right? And they're done.
I love that ending because essentially it's like a Street Fighter 2 move, more or less.
Right, yeah.
You know, he does a Hadouken on these guys and they explode, and he's like, "I'm your number one, Jesus."
And then Jesus just goes, "Yeah."
James is done at that point. Judas like staggers up and he yells, "Get over here!"
Now we're mixing fighting games, and I love it.
I played these at your house. You know? Justin, make up his finishing move.
Judas?
John.
John?
Judas is gonna die.
Well, I think what he needs to do then, he's just like, "I've brought it from above, now so below," and he just does this, and rock spikes just come up and impale Judas.
That's awesome.
Ironically, kind of like this. And cross.
Oh my gosh. I love the symmetry.
Yeah.
So from the ground. It was very rabbinic.
Thank you.
Well
So,
done.
And then when he's done, he kind of walks by Judas and he throws him some silver. And he's like, "Keep the change." And he
You filthy animals. And he has to throw 30 talents of silver.
Yes.
Like on his body.
Yeah, he chucks it like it's no big deal. It's in slow motion. He's just like, "Keep the change."
and then you just hear the, "Yeah!" He puts on sunglasses. He walks away.
He walks out of the
Jesus is
arena.
Like, "I'm following you now."
He walks out of the arena. Jesus is winning in an open top convertible and sunglasses. And he's like, "You ready?" He's like, "You know I am." They hop in and they just peel out into the desert, into the sunset.
Yep.
Exactly. These sound effects. That's a lawnmower. Oh, there we go.
This could not have gone better. So wait, who are we saying?
Oh yeah. John won.
John for the win! I didn't have that one preloaded, so I had to do it through the microphone.
Woo. Wow, that was.
Doug, I'm calling you like tomorrow about how to get a soundboard.
Yeah. I'll let you know. I'll relay you over to Justin because he's got this on lockdown. Well, that was a blast. Thank you so much, Mark, for hanging out with us and just chatting about the podcast and doing silly stuff about Muppets and movies. At this point, again, I welcome you to plug whatever you want to plug, social media, for yourself, for your show. Tell everyone where to find you, where to find Text and Rock.
Oh, textandrock.com. And our slogan is read the Bible like an ancient to have faith like a modern.
Nice. I love it.
Yeah.
Also, at this point in time, we put out anything we recommend. If there's a show you're watching, a song you're listening to, a game you're playing, if there's anything you'd recommend to the audience to check out right now, if you've got something in mind, whatever you recommend for folks.
Yeah. So my wife and I always discover shows later than everyone else, and then we binge watch them. So right now we're tearing through Dexter, which I'm sure everyone in your audience has already seen.
Mm-hmm.
But I love the flip of protagonist and antagonist.
Mm-hmm.
I think that show is brilliant. And the way his psychology develops through it is just far out. I think it's awesome.
How far are you in the show?
I'm to season 3.
Cool. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to challenge you. After season 4, just stop. After season 4, just stop. And trust me, there's gonna be a voice that's gonna be like, "But there's 4 more seasons." Just stop, and you'll thank me for it.
Did it go 8 seasons? Really?
It went 8 seasons. Season 4 might be a masterpiece, and then just call it after that. You're not gonna want to, but trust me.
I have one more. This is important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Since we're all quarantined and stuck inside, I've basically been subsisting on 2 pair of sweatpants. And I mean, the top the top of my outfit changes from t-shirt to t-shirt, but it's really 2 pair of Mack Weldon sweatpants. I just think they're baller.
Mack Weldon.
They're so comfortable, and they make them from like size Doug to midget. They're great.
I love this is the first wardrobe recommendation we've had, and I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Check out these pants, man. They're good. I love it. That's fantastic.
Yeah. I found myself like wearing sweats out in public more and more. It's good that this quarantine brought it inside.
Because now you can be like, hey, this is quarantine. That's what I got to do, right? You know. Justin, what do you have to recommend?
Wear your sweatpants.
I'm gonna recommend Mike Birbiglia's movie from 2016, Don't Think Twice. Just got around to watching it. Very timely, just like you, Mark. And it's fantastic. If anyone's ever done anything in the realm of improv or comedy or performing, or had dreams that have been crushed, you'll enjoy this movie. It's really well done. The thing that I think hit the most for me is that it felt very real. Like I really was like, oh, these characters are really pissed off. They all did a really good job of playing things very honestly, how the scenario would have actually played out. So I would say check that out. It's on Netflix right now for free. So
that's awesome. Really cool. I'd recommend a game called Jackbox Party Pack 6. We played it last weekend on our Twitch stream. Had a real hoot and a half. It's basically just a bunch of party games, trivia games, figuring out who's an alien, doing really bad jokes, all sorts of good stuff. We had a really good time with it. I recommend it. It's worth checking out and playing with your friends. Because the best part about it, too, is only one person needs to buy it, and then everyone else can join in. Like, not everyone needs to buy the game. So if you have one person that gets it, everyone else can play. So I think it's a really cool thing. Check it out. Good stuff. Woo! All right, so that about wraps up our show. So now for the good stuff. Gang, please, more than ever right now, please follow us on Twitch. We're at MindGap Podcast on Twitch. We do our live streams there for our episodes, as well as our video game streams on Saturday nights. Come hang out with us. We really would love you to follow us because we're on our way to becoming affiliates on Twitch, and that would mean the world to us if you could find us there. We're also on our social medias at MindGap Podcast. It's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. And also check out our YouTube channel. It's where we post all of our episodes, as well as our silly stuff on the side, like Justin plays video games, Doug watches awkward videos, and highlights from our Twitch video game streams, where we got a bunch of silly stuff happening on there as well. So please check all that stuff out, and you can find Justin online as well.
On Instagram and Twitter, it's at Justin_Michael, spelled Mikel. It's the fun way of spelling it. And while you're in the online realm, check us out on Apple Podcast, on Stitcher, on
Spotify,
and on Google Podcast, wherever you can find and consume the old casts of pods. And we ask that you subscribe to us, share us around, review us, rate us, all those things. The biggest one, though, is sharing, because sharing is caring. And the more you share, the more we get out there and the cooler stuff we can do. And then also 2east8th.com/mindgap. And just take a look at 2east8th.com in general. We redesigned the website. We're going to have a new sizzle reel coming out. And we're going to be announcing a fun competition that we're going to go public with soon. So keep an eye on all that.
Hooray! Once again, Mark, thank you so much for hanging out with us.
Yeah, it was so fun. Thank you, guys.
This was an absolute blast. Justin, thank you.
Douglas, thank you.
Twitch, thank you.
Listeners, thank you.
And you all have a dandy fucking week.